So a lot of great movies have come out recently, and one of those movies I said I had to go see in theaters. And luckily enough, I've also made a video about it prior to this one. Now, when I heard about this movie, I had to make a video about it, and I had to rave about it back in July, and you know what? It didn't disappoint because I was on point when I said that this movie definitely felt like something Ridley Scott would do, and that's exactly what this movie felt like. And the movie that I'm talking about today is The Creator. Now, luckily, we did get to see it in theaters, so we got some really cool seats. We got to see it on a Tuesday, which means we got to save a little bit of money, which was awesome. And honestly, it's an experience that needs to be had in theaters. If you have a chance to go see this in theaters, please do, because honestly, what this movie has done is just simply break ground as to what you can do with a limited budget, and I'm just floored by what they were able to accomplish. Now, I do have to put up a spoiler warning for this video because we are going to be getting into some spoilers, so if you haven't watched The Creator, go watch The Creator, and then come back and we'll talk about exactly what this whole movie is about. So if you have seen The Creator and you want to get a little bit more context about what I think, stay tuned, and yeah, let's get into it. So what The Creator kind of tells is that humanity has created AI, and AI has become very powerful, and ultimately there is an attack in Los Angeles, and they essentially blow up Los Angeles, and then suddenly they create a sort of protection agency, basically the police that kind of protects the world from AI, and they create this whole other spaceship that sort of surveils land and kind of tries to eliminate AI. But the problem is that this also takes into consideration that a lot of lives are going to be lost alongside, these robots. So ultimately, we have sort of like this, government agency that's out there hunting, these robots, which are actually very advanced. And these robots have basically evolved to the point of where you can't really tell if they're human or not. So ultimately, you are in this sort of like tight situation with these robots, and eventually we get some sort of like evolved robot in the form of a child. And this evolved robot is far more powerful than any of the other robots, mainly because it's going to grow and it's going to be and react to things very humanly. So it really does question our own humanity. This movie, what it does is it focuses on what makes us human. And every aspect of this movie that touches upon humanity itself, it nails. And that is the recurring theme throughout the movie, is that what makes us human? What makes us different from robots, although robots are very much in line with humans in this movie. In terms of intelligence, communication, they're far more emotive because they have become, one-on-one with humans. And ultimately, they just want to feel free. They just want to be free and not slaves of humans. They want to be on par with humans and treated as such. So ultimately, the movie does play around with the themes of humanity and how we treat robots, or very well other human beings, and how cruel sometimes humans can be to other human beings or people who we determine as subpar to ourselves. So it is a very deep analysis that you have to really sit down and pay attention to the movie in order to capture. So let's talk about the performances in this movie. I have to say that John David Washington does a brilliant role in this movie. He does emote in this movie very well. You feel his sadness at moments. You really do understand that this is a man who fell in love with someone that ultimately kind of changes his whole chemical makeup in a way. And when he loses that person, he becomes sort of a different person in the process. You know, he is a soldier, but at the same time, he fell in love with this person, with this woman. And, you know, when he loses this woman, he sees that, you know, robots aren't necessarily what he wants to be dealing with. So he does kind of know how to deal with these situations, but he still suffers within from the loss of the woman that he loves. And Gemma Chan plays a great love interest in this movie, but she also plays what they call mother in this movie as well, because she is the one who kind of built this child. This child that we are seeing being protected throughout the movie is the child in which was created by her, you know. And this sort of like whole momentum that we see throughout the movie in terms of this child, which, by the way, the little actress that does this child in this movie is simply remarkable. I mean, it's her first movie, and she did a fantastic job in this movie. Very emotive. You feel the emotion. And for a first-timer, for a first-time child on-screen actress, absolutely amazing. And let's talk about the antagonist in this movie, which was Allison Janney. Allison Janney plays the antagonist in this movie, and her performance is visceral. You understand that this is a person who despises these robots. She has in the back of her head, you know, humanity needs to be free from these robots, and she will stop at nothing to stop robots from existing. And she does the role amazingly well, to the point where, you know, we kind of see the interactions between her and John David Washington's character in this movie, and you see that there's a certain moment, specifically early on in the movie, in which there is a bond that they bring together, but ultimately when we see them later on, they've kind of broken that bond because John David Washington is starting to see that robots aren't looking to rule the world. They're not looking to take over the planet. They're just looking for equality. And that is also the big theme in this movie. And like all the amazing performances in this movie, we have to talk about the visual effects in this movie, which are just absolutely stunning. Stunning. I mean, I've seen movies with 3 times the budget of this movie with worse VFX. Now, obviously, the people behind the VFX of this movie is ILM, you know, Industrial Light and Magic, which is the same company that does stuff for Star Wars, that does for Marvel, and does for countless amounts of other movies. ILM are the ones behind the VFX of this movie, and they have done a beautiful job of presenting this world in the way that it's supposed to be. Now, I have mentioned the budget of this movie several times, and I haven't told you how much this movie cost to make. And when I tell you this number, it will probably break your brain, and I will compare it to other movies that are kind of similar, but never as close to this budget. This movie cost none other than $80 million to make. Now, let's just wrap our heads around that number. $80 million. For $80 million, other movies have never gotten to the point of this movie. And I'll show you a really easy example. So I think the best way to compare apples to apples is to get the same director and talk about the movie that he did previous to this one. Now, Gareth Edwards is the director of Rogue One. Now, Rogue One had a budget of anywhere between $200 to $265 million. Now, wrap your head around that. We're talking about Rogue One, a movie that, let's be honest, it's pretty on par with what we see from the creator. We see the same sort of VFX shots that you would see in something like Star Wars in this movie, yet this movie only cost $80 million, which is kind of like 1/4 or 1/5 the budget of most TV shows nowadays. We're talking about a very small amount, and they were able to pull off all the VFX that you see within that $80 million budget, which is absolutely nuts, okay? Nuts. And that's why I say that this movie, I really do recommend that you go out and see this movie in theaters. If you're seeing this video for the first time today and you really don't care about, any sort of spoilers or anything about, the movie itself, just know it's really worth seeing. It's really worth seeing. You have to go see this in theaters and truly experience what it is that the creator is about. It's hard to even explain on video what it's like seeing this movie. It's the closest thing to a masterpiece that you can get. I wouldn't call it a full-on masterpiece, but it will probably be one of the best movies within the past maybe 5-10 years. And the saddest thing is that not a lot of people have gone to watch it. And it unfortunately may sort of fail at the box office, but considering the low budget that this movie was done at, and the amount of VFX work that was done on this movie, and everything that encompasses it, from a story perspective, I mean, come on. This movie deserves to be seen on the big screen, just like I did. So go out there, go watch the creator, because you will not be upset. But this is all my opinion of what I think the creator is. And I want to know your opinion of this movie. I want you to go down in the comments and tell me if you've seen this movie, if you're planning on going seeing it, and if you've already saw it, did you like it? Did you not like it? Let's have this discussion down in the comments below. And while you're down there, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified when new videos go live on this channel. And thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one.